You mentioned the dreaded Brexit word. Now that we've got to this point, what would you say are the main things that you are relieved by, and what are the things that are most of concern to you as we play through?
I suppose the most important achievement over the last few months is that we did not leave the European Single Market and Customs Union without a follow-on trade agreement. So the existence of an agreement as a foundation is in and of itself the most important positive thing that's happened for businesses. And yet that agreement's got a lot of holes in it. It's a good foundation, but it's kind of like the green base that you have when you get a set of Legos. You then need to build with little bricks on top of that in order to get a functioning set of arrangements for a trading and economic relationship. And that work still remains to be done. So I think for UK businesses, Brexit, whilst complete in the technical sense, is still unfinished business, in that the trading relationship between the UK and the EU will need to be negotiated over a long period of time. There are going to be a lot more bumps in the road before we get to a smoother path ahead as well. And I'd divide business concerns into two groups at the moment. One is the set of concerns around adjustments to the change that's just happened. It's an enormous change. Individual traders have to adjust. People have to look at their business models again, and in certain cases they're going to be unlikely to find solutions to some of the problems that they now face because of border bureaucracy. I think there of exports of live shellfish, for example. It's not something that's going to be easy to do ever in future. I think about those who have to learn new procedures for moving goods from Great Britain to Northern Ireland, where they've never had to do this sort of thing before. So there's this big adjustment and education piece, which comes with costs for businesses, that's happening right now and will probably take 12 to 18 months. Then there's the structural piece, whereby literally things have changed very fundamentally and are unlikely to go back in any way to business as usual. And that's everything from some elements of financial services where we're very unlikely to see the same arrangements coming back into play that we had before. In some cases, unfortunately, movement of professionals to provide services to clients in other countries as well could end up being complex and somewhat restricted. And in goods trade too, there are some issues that are simply structural that don't have a solution. So businesses either adapt or have to change their strategy altogether. And I think the outcome of that is we'll see a lot of firms who are to the smaller side, less sophisticated firms, saying it's too much hassle for the 10% of my turnover going over to Europe to keep doing all of this. So I think I'll just stop. Yeah. But there'll be others out there who will say, actually, this is too important to my business, which is 65 to 70% turnover on export to Europe. I need to find a way to make it work. And in boardrooms all across the country, we're going to be seeing people getting together and making those big decisions and then figuring out where they focus their energy in future.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point you make about the distinction between the larger businesses and the smaller ones is a very important one, because small business is such an important engine for economic growth pardon me, across the country. And I've been interested to notice that in terms of the stock market, British companies lately have been starting to be, I think, reconsidered by investors more positively.
Yeah.
But I think that comes hand in hand with what you've said, which is smaller businesses potentially having choices that are much more difficult to make.
And a lot of them will face some pretty existential questions, both with the outworking of the pandemic and the outworking of Brexit as well. And we'll find their businesses at inflection points. I expect we'll see a lot of merger and acquisition activity over the next few years. I expect that we will finally see, unfortunately, some of the insolvencies that were predicted at the end of the last recession that never materialized, because there are going to be businesses that literally run out of cash as we get towards the finish line of this particular marathon. So there's going to be a lot of change, I think, both in terms of the business population as a whole and also approach to trading around the world. And it's going to take a number of years for people like me who observe it to really come to a conclusion on where it lands. There are a lot of people out there right now, both on the pandemic and on Brexit, keen to say, I know exactly how this is going to end. And I think all of them are selling a little bit of snake oil because, quite frankly, none of us knows. We're in the middle of that process and it's going to take some time.